Alright. I should probably pause that. So, full transparency, breaking the fourth wall, everything, I'm kind of buzzing. No, not from drugs. From alcohol. I am above 21. I am legal age to drink. Everything is done legally. If you're under the age of 21, do not in America do not drink. If you're of legal age in whatever country you're in, then yeah, drink. But yeah, I'm kind of buzzing. So, we're gonna fucking react to Kamala Harris's 25% wealth tax. And well, I'm gonna go ahead and say my political views on tax. It should be a flat rate, no matter who you are. It hurts and benefits everybody equally. If you make $250, you'd pay, let's say, 10% in tax. If you make $250,000 a year, you pay $10 10% in tax. You're gonna feel it the same way either way. So let's see what this video goes with.
Convention is happening. Earlier this week, we talked about Kamala Harris's new plans when it comes to housing, but now we have some information on her tax plans. So let's jump into it. This is your week in money. No surprise, Kamala Harris, vice president of current president Joe Biden, her tax plan is pretty much aligning closely with his proposals, which is including significant changes to capital gains and unrealized gain taxes.
Alright, I'm gonna put it this way. Our problem with America is not that the fact that about how much we're taxed. It's about what that money's going towards. So if the tax plan stays the same, as long as she diverts the money towards stuff that we actually need, it wouldn't be as bad. If it goes with what Biden diverted the tax for, yeah, we're gonna be screwed.
The big one, and that's what we're talking about in this episode, that's particularly targeting the ultra wealthy. Here are some key details. When it comes to capital gains tax increases, Harris supports raising the capital gains tax rate for those earning over $1 million a year to match the ordinary income rates, and also potentially increasing the top rate to as high as 44.6%. This move aims to reduce the preferential treatment of investment income compared to wage income. For what it's worth, a lot of that invested income has already been taxed before as regular income. Now we're talking about taxing it again. After you invest it, it grows, and then you sell it. So,
alright, this, from surface value, I don't know much about it. This is bad. This is how it's bad. You're taxed, okay? You're taxed on your actual income. Then you want to invest in property, and you're taxed on that property. You add another tax on that, that is going to have people less incentivized to work harder and try to and actually keep their money out of it. You're going to make less taxes because they're going to, like I said, no expert here, but they're going to not want to invest more, and they're probably going to buy gold or silver or other precious metals to keep and increase their gains, and the government ain't going to try anything, ain't going to be able to touch it because you can't tax gold after you already buy it because since it's your property. As much as they would like to try, and there's less proof of it. If they try to tax investment, like investment properties, investment businesses, then people will just less likely invest in properties and businesses and drive as much as I would love for them to drive the properties down, it will ultimately hurt the economy.
you know,
Like I said, not a expert, and also potentially buzzing and on the verge of drunk. So take my words as grain of salt.
it's a double tax, and I guess we want to raise that double tax to be compared to the first tax. And then there's the one that's been talked about all over social media this week, and that's taxed on unrealized gains. Kamala endorses a 25% minimum tax on the unrealized gains of billionaires and centimillionaires, which is those with a net worth exceeding $100 million. Unrealized gains are increases in the value of investments that have not been.
Oh, because this can't be backfire. You want to start a business and it fails. You are on the hook for those unrealized gains. And the business sees potential gain of 25%. You're now on the hook for that 25% in income tax because that's unrealized and that's your potential gains. Yeah, this won't just demolish small businesses. This won't demolish businesses that failed.
Sold yet. And traditionally, these gains are not taxed until they are realized through a sale, but this proposal would tax them annually. And then there's the wealth tax. The plan includes a broader wealth tax targeting the ultra-rich, aiming to raise significant revenue by applying taxes to accumulated wealth that has not yet been converted into income. This proposal is projected to generate $500 billion over 10 years, contributing
$500 billion over 10 years that goes into the politicians' pockets. Okay. This seems good on surface. Until you look at actual income tax and notice that 10% of the population is paying 98% of the tax. These over millionaires, billionaires are paying more than their fair shares. Where's all that money going towards? It's going towards the, granted, good thing, less fortunate in terms of food stamps and stuff like, and governmental assistance, but also people who don't want to work, and it's paying towards their welfare, and they don't want to work because they get more on welfare than they do if they actually work, which takes money out of the government, out of their system, but it makes them reliant.
To funding various social programs. What are the impacts and criticisms? Now, while the tax plan aims to address income inequality and increase government revenue, it has been met with criticism. Opponents argue that taxing unrealized gains could face legal challenges, for one, also disrupt investment markets, and also disincentivize long-term investing. Of course, you're thinking, now, this doesn't impact me, right? Because I don't have over $100 million. Well, if
it'll impact you whenever prices of everything else goes up.
It is discouraging investments. That is often impacting the overall stock market. And where do you think your 401k is invested?
Oh, yeah, it's a big thing.
You're not going to receive these wealth taxes. The average American won't. I won't. But guess what?
So, for all of us who have investments in 401k and all the other stuff that the government says we should have, if the stock market crashes, our 401k goes out the window. Which means we rely on Social Security, which is projected to run out by 2033. Which means you won't be able to enjoy anything that you pay into.
That's what I like buying into the S&P 500. I like having my 10% average annual.
Again, not an expert on any of this.
Return, up years and down years combined. But the vast majority of the movement in the stock market are coming from these large corporations. They're coming from these ultra wealthy individuals. And if they no longer feel comfortable to invest in the marketplace like they do now, what? I'm going to see my retirement get cut in half on its average returns potentially?
Cut in half. That's low ball.
Just because it is taxes on the ultra wealthy. And additionally, there are concerns about the future.
I'm also going to bring this up because I have brought up in my other videos. If you cut the amount of money that they make in any way, they're not going to count it as a loss and say, hey, we need to break even. They're going to take that advantage of that, say, hey, since we have to pay this much more, we're going to charge you this much more, and most time when they charge you this X amount more, it is more than what they lose, and they end up profiting more because they have an excuse to raise their prices, and no one's going to look into it and figure out that, hey, maybe we shouldn't. Big example is McDonald's. They're going to raise their prices above what they need to cut even and close down stores to make, because of what California's doing. But they're going to blame it on California's freaking political views and their what's it called? Again, drunk, but they're going to blame it on whatever decisions have been made to make them lose revenue, and they're going to do everything they can to make revenue.
Feasibility and economic impact of implementing such a tax. But this tax initiative does underscore Kamala Harris's commitment to progressive taxation, which is focusing on ensuring that the wealthiest Americans contribute more significantly to federal revenues. So, let's talk about potential consequences, and then let's also address
they're going to hike up prices.
These taxes. But first, potential consequences. Obviously, market volatility and asset liquidation. High net worth individuals might be forced to sell assets prematurely to generate liquidity for paying these taxes, which could lead to increased market volatility, where your 401k is. And these large-scale sales could depress asset prices, affecting the broader market and other investors, like you and your 401k. And then there's the disincentive to investment. This tax could, and I'm going to use the word could because all this is kind of hypothetical right now, discourage long-term investments in illiquid assets like real estate, startups, or other capital-intensive projects. Investors may prefer more liquid assets that can be easily sold to pay these new taxes, which could lead to reduced capital availability for economic growth and innovation. Then there's the complex.
I'm also going to bring it this way. There's going to be some loophole that will benefit her quote-unquote friends, allies, that other businesses can't. And those loopholes will make them more money while driving their competitors out of business. It happened in California with, like I said, the increase in minimum wage for fast food, because Panera Bread was excused from it because they make their own bread or whatever. But Panera Bread was... And guess who owned Panera Bread? Just the friend of the governor of California. Fucking Gavinism.
And administrative challenges. The IRS would face significant challenges in assessing the value of illiquid and difficult to value assets annually. This could lead to costly disputes and a substantial increase in administrative burdens, both for taxpayers and the government. The proposal will obviously face legal challenges if passed by Congress and signed by the President. And this because taxing unrealized gains could be considered unconstitutional. The U.S. tax system has historically only taxed realized income, and a shift to taxing unrealized gains could be seen as exceeding Congress's taxing authority under the 16th Amendment, and then, of course, the fear of distortion of investment decisions. Let's be real world about this.
Alright.
Investors will
It seems like he's not going to go into the 16th Amendment. I really don't know much about the 16th Amendment myself, so, 16... The power to levy income taxes without having based them on population. Gives Congress the power to collect income taxes without having to base them on population. The amendment shall power and lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever source derived without a point opportune among several states and without regard to a census or numeration. So it's pretty much saying okay, I understand. It's saying the federal government is levying a tax without congressional. Oh God, I have to go into Congress too. All right, oversimplified explanation. The United States is based on three branches: the executive branch, which is based on enforcing laws, and that includes the military. You can see which one's more powerful. The judicial branch, which is based on ruling yes or no on laws, and the executive, judicial, and legislative branch, which is made on making laws. Taxes now fall under the legislative branch, which, unlike the executive branch, which is elected into power, and the judicial branch, which is put in power by the elected official. The legislative branch is put into power by the people themselves. You elect these people from your state, and these people all come together from every state and vote on a proposed bill, or in this case, a tax, and render it say, yes, we should do this, or no, we shouldn't. So if the highest power in the executive branch says we should do this, the 16th Amendment says no, the legislative branch should vote on whether this tax should be allowed. Same thing about what happened in, not going into that right now. But yeah, it's taking away power from the legislative branch, which is supposed to be a way to balance the power of the judicial and executive branch.
Probably engage in tax avoidance strategies or move their assets into tax havens to escape the tax. This could distort economic decisions and lead to inefficient allocation of resources, ultimately harming economic growth, which not only hurts your 401k in that situation, but could also hurt your job. And then there's the impact on entrepreneurship and wealth creation in this country. By taxing unrealized gains, the policy could penalize entrepreneurs whose wealth is tied up in a business that have not been realized profits just yet. This could stifle entrepreneurship and discourage the kind of risk-taking that drives innovation and job creation in this country. These potential negative consequences suggest that while the policy aims to address wealth inequality, which honestly is not a bad intention, it could inadvertently harm economic growth, market stability, and long-term investments, which in general will actually hurt wealth inequality and those at the bottom even more. But there are arguments for these new taxes, and we just talked about the potential consequences, so it's only fair to talk about the arguments for them. 1. Revenue generation. This new tax could generate substantial...
Why is that a benefit? We don't need more revenue. The freaking government, politicians make more money than most of the people in their state. And they vote on bills that make them more wealthy. AKA, hey, we want a 10% increase in our profits when we're making $170,000 a year. Oh yeah, no, the people under us, yeah, no, they can figure out themselves.
Revenue for the federal government, which could be used to fund public services, reduce the national deficit, probably not, or invest in infrastructure.
Or we reduce the amount of money that politicians make and make it a voluntary thing instead of a career thing.
Healthcare and education. The reason I say probably not is because usually when we increase tax revenue, we usually just increase spending instead of actually fixing the deficit. Given that unrealized gains are a significant portion of the wealth held by the ultra-rich in this country, tapping into this resource could raise hundreds of billions of dollars over time. And then there's addressing wealth inequality, which again, addressing that as a subject in general is not an inherently bad thing, it's how we go about it. But wealth inequality in the United States is at a historically high level, with a small percentage of the population holding a disproportionate amount of wealth. But by taxing unrealized gains, the policy aims to redistribute wealth more fairly and reduce the wealth gap, ensuring that the ultra-wealthy contribute a fairer
Communism! Because that never fucked up, has it?
share of the wealth society. But there's also the...
No, alright. So, if you think it's not fair that you work for a business owner who makes $100,000 a year, and you make $15 an hour working under him, under a few employees, you have to think, that business owner has a lot more on the line than you do. If you get fired, or if the business drops, you just find another job. If the business bankrupts because of him, he is out however much money that the business was. That is part of the reason why owning a business and running a business and going higher up pays a lot more. You are responsible and you can get in trouble for, and you have a lot more on the line than Joe Smo making $15 an hour, doing whatever, making coffee or whatever. It's risk and reward. The higher you risk, the more money you get, but the more money that is potentially lost if it fails.
Conversation around closing tax loopholes. Currently, the ultra-wealthy can accumulate vast amounts of wealth without paying taxes on it until they sell their assets. By taxing unrealized gains, this policy...
But they still have to pay taxes on it when they sell it.
would close a major tax loophole, ensuring that billionaires and centimillionaires cannot indefinitely defer taxes on their wealth. This could create a more level playing field between different types of income. And then there's economic efficiency. Proponents argue that taxing unrealized gains could reduce speculative investments and short-term trading by encouraging longer-term investment strategies. By targeting wealth that grows without being taxed, this policy could discourage the hoarding of assets purely for capital appreciation and encourage more productive uses of capital.
No, it
and
won't.
then there's reducing tax avoidance, as the tax would make it hard.
So, to go into that, what they're going to do is they're going to hoard it more and wait for a politician to change it to where it's more beneficial, then they're going to sell it then at a higher price. And then a politician's going to come back and try to fix it the way that Kamala Harris is trying to fix it, and the person who bought it for cheaper is going to get screwed, even though the person who bought it for cheaper is probably freaking some redneck in the boonies who thought it was a good deal and is barely making enough to live on to begin with.
Harder for the ultra-wealthy to use financial engineering to avoid taxes. By taking wealth as it accrues rather than only when it's realized, the policy could prevent the accumulation of untaxed wealth through strategies like borrowing against assets or transferring wealth to heirs with minimal tax liability. So in general, supporters of a 25% tax on unrealized gains for the ultra-wealthy believe it would address structural inequalities in the tax system, generate significant revenue, and help reduce wealth concentration at the top of the economic ladder. Let's talk about the current statistics around taxes in the United States. Here's the provable reality when it comes to paying taxes in the United States. The top 1% of earners are those making over $682,577 a year and above.
Fucking wish.
Total income taxes that they pay in the United States is 45.8% of the total share. They pay nearly half of all federal income taxes, despite representing only 26.3% of total adjusted gross income in the United States. And then there's the top 10% of earners who make over $169,800 a year, and they pay a total of 75.8% of total income taxes in the United States. And this just further illustrates the more progressive nature of our tax system. And then the top 25% of earners in the United States are over $94,440 a year, pay almost 90% of
Okay,
all
top
income taxes
25%.
paid in this country.
100%.
The top 50% of earners pay 97.7% of all income taxes. So when it comes to our progressive tax system, the bottom 50% of earners in this country actually only pay 2.3% of all federal income taxes, and that is people making less than $46,637 a year. Obviously, people making that amount of money have less money to spend on things like needs. And obviously, people in the 1% have a lot more money to spend on things like wants. The argument is honestly kind of simple and easy to understand when it comes to taking more from one person based on the situation and less from another person. Someone making less than $30,000 a year, if you...
The problem with that is they're going to take more from the top 1% and not take any less from the bottom, what do you say, 50%?
Take 20% of their income, they might have to choose between 2 meals or 3. But if you're taking 20% from someone who's making $30 million a year, that 20% then determines whether or not they can afford 2 Ferraris that day or 3. So obviously they are...
Like I said, the problem is they're going to take that extra money and they're going to be able to, example, the top 1% is going to have to choose between 1 Ferrari, 2 Ferraris, or 3, but that bottom percent is still going to have to choose between 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day, because they're not going to freaking change their tax codes, because that's less money in their pockets.
On very different scales. But it is very clear that this new tax is only targeting the top 1%. And the top 1%
Bullshit.
already pays 50%.
Yeah, that's the thing. It only targets the top 1%. It doesn't change anything from the people below that. So, where's that extra money going? Oh, yeah. Politicians' pockets. I can guarantee you if this goes through, Kamala Harris's net worth will go skyrocket.
Of the taxes in this country. You know, if we're ignoring the impact on the economy, which would affect your job, or the impact on the stock market, which would impact your 401k and different retirements, let's just ignore this for a second. They have more money, they can pay more taxes, and honestly, just makes sense. It's not going to impact me. Let's talk about the history of taxes in the United States to put this into context.
Ooh, is he going to go into Reagan?
This type of tax could actually look like in the future when it comes to impacting you. Until the Civil War, the vast majority of tax income for the United States came from import taxes. The first federal income tax was introduced during the Civil War under the Revenue Act of 1861 to help fund war expenses. The federal government imposed a 3% tax on incomes over $800. The tax system was then revised under the Revenue Act of 1862, introducing a gradual tax with rates ranging from 3% to 5%. Eventually, the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the precursor to the IRS, was also then established. But the income tax was repealed after the Civil War debts were paid. Then comes 1913, where the 16th Amendment was ratified, and that granted Congress the power to levy income taxes without apportionment among the states. This led to the modern federal income tax system. And then that Revenue Act of 1913 reintroduced the income tax with rates ranging from 1% on incomes over $3,000 to 7% on incomes over $500,000. So again, you're probably already starting to see the pattern. Income tax was introduced for only the people at the top, and then we started to see it trickle down to people in the middle. And then during the Great Depression and the New Deal, tax rates were raised again to fund government programs, as the top tax rate reached 79% in 1936. And
Jeez.
then came the Revenue Act of 19...
Alright, no, imagine that. You make $1,000 a week, but you only bring home $2,100 because of taxes. Obviously, $1,000 a week is high, but that's beside the point. So where's the other 79% going?
1942, which greatly expanded the number of Americans subject to income tax, transforming it into a mass tax. The top income tax rate peaked at 94% during World War II, but since then it has been lowered to 37% top income tax rate today.
That's still too high.
Taxes start as just a small drop in the bucket, but always expand.
Alright, so let me explain to you why this is too high. So that's how much we make. We have to pay from what we make. We have to pay 37%. Okay, well we have to buy stuff, and then we have to pay. Let's put Mississippi in blast on this. 7% of that. So that goes from 39% and then 7%. We have for anything we buy. Then there's property taxes. Then there is road taxes in the form of vehicle registration. Then there is there's some kind of weird tax on if you have hot foods. I don't remember what it's called, but that's taxed extra. Then there's tobacco tax. We are taxed up the ass. We pay more than 25% of our income in taxes outside of how much of our income is actually taxed. Oh yeah, and we're finally ready to retire. That's taxed. If we want to pass down money to our kids after we die, that's taxed. We are taxed way too high already.
And pull
I don't care who you are.
Pulling them back to pre-tax introduction levels is nearly impossible. But obviously, unrealized gains, capital gains taxes is different than income taxes. Let's continue to put it in perspective and look at capital gains taxes today and the impact on the overall economy. And this is just based on tax research, not a political right or political left. I want to be...
Alright. Income gain tax is... That's where you get a lot of your tax breaks from. It's pretty much how much you bring in and versus how much you lost this year. If you spent $30 million and you made $31 million, you only made $1 million, and that's what you're taxed on. That's where a lot of these tax breaks come from.
Be as objective as possible at all times. So what are capital gains taxes? Capital gains taxes are taxes levied on the profit realized from the sale of an asset that has appreciated in value. When an individual sells an asset such as a stock, bond, real estate, or a business for more than its purchase price, the difference between the selling price and the original cost is considered a capital gain and is subject to taxation. But what are the impacts of these capital gains taxes? There's distortion of financial decisions. The structure of these capital gains taxes can distort the financial decisions that individuals make, encouraging investors to time the sale of assets to minimize taxes, or use strategies like tax loss harvesting, where losses are realized to offset gains. These behaviors can create inefficiencies in the overall marketplace. As a full-time creator, I can tell you creating engaging videos takes a lot of time and effort. Scripting to editing, the whole process can be a headache. But that's where InVideo AI comes in.
This video was made 2 weeks ago, so yeah, we'll let the ad play.
With InVideo AI, you're in the director's seat while the AI acts as your coach.
Wait. No. Get myself out of the way of this.
Pilot, taking care of all the heavy lifting. InVideo AI is the world's most used AI video creator with over 10 million users in more than 150 countries. It's the only tool I found that lets you control every aspect of your video using simple text prompts. So here's how it works. To start, you enter in a detailed prompt. For example, create a video guide explaining how to invest in real estate. InVideo AI will generate a rough draft based on your input.
If you don't like the stock market but still want to grow your money, then real estate might be your new best friend. First things first, understand your budget. Know how much you can invest without breaking the bank.
If you need to make changes, it's as easy as typing. You can add subtitles, change the voiceover, or even modify the intro with just a few text commands. Want to change the language to French? Done.
Si la bourse ne vous attire pas, mais que vous souhaitez tout de même faire fructifier votre argent, l'immobilier pourrait bien être votre nouveau meilleur ami. Tout d'abord, il est essentiel de bien comprendre votre budget. Déterminez combien vous pouvez investir sans mettre vos finances à plus haut.
Need better footage for a scene? Done. It's that simple. And here's the game changer. InVideo AI can clone your voice. Imagine creating videos in your own voice without having to record anything. This feature alone saves you time and money, making video creation more accessible and efficient. Once you're happy with your video, you can export it without watermarks and with access to high-quality stock footage. This comprehensive tool replaces the need for multiple apps, saving you hundreds of dollars each month. So if you're serious about upping your video game, try InVideo AI. Plans start at just $20 a month, and you'll get access to millions of royalty-free stock footage clips, voice cloning, and more. Scan the QR code on the screen or check out the link in the description and use my code YourWeekInMoney50 to get 2 times the number of video generation credits in your first month. And then, like we talked about before, there are impacts on entrepreneurship and innovation. Entrepreneurs and investors and startups often rely on capital gains from the sale of equity stakes. Higher capital gains taxes may discourage investments in high-risk, high-reward ventures, which are crucial for innovation and economic dynamism.
Yeah.
Just like the new tax we're talking about, there is the effect on wealth inequality, as some argue that increasing the capital gains tax could reduce wealth inequality by ensuring that high-income individuals who disproportionately benefit from the capital gains taxes pay a larger share of their income in taxes. However, critics note that this could also reduce incentives for wealth creation and long-term investments, again hurting your 401k and your job. But there are different treatments.
Alright, time for me to go into why communism doesn't work. So, what are the highest paying jobs and most sought after jobs in America? Doctors, lawyers, financiers, people who work in finance, basically. Yeah, they are because they pay a lot. In communism, where you pay more to pretty much make everything equal, well, why would I work harder to become a doctor, or harder to become a lawyer, or work in finance, when I'm going to get paid the same amount whenever I could just run the trash? Or, in America's case right now, I could sit at home, make $800 a month for doing nothing, when I could be working at McDonald's making $600 a month for working at McDonald's. It does not work because people will naturally gravitate to whatever makes them the most amount of money with the least amount of work. There are some very, very few hard-pressed individuals who will say, no, I want to do the work to become a doctor. I don't care how much I pay. But in reality, no one's going to be a doctor, do all the time studying to become a doctor or a lawyer, if they aren't compensated rightfully for it more than the normal amount. People aren't going to take the risk to run a business if the profit doesn't outweigh the risk. What does that associate to? Subpar doctors making mistakes, subpar lawyers who only collect money, and you're probably going to fail the case anyways, but hey, at least I'll get my money. This is why communism doesn't work. Because if there's no risk, there is not much reward.
For short-term capital gains and long-term capital gains, as the United States tax policy currently taxes long-term capital gains at a lower rate than short-term gains. This differential is designed to encourage long-term investing, but it also creates complexity and opportunities for tax avoidance. Policy changes that reduce this differential could simplify the tax code, but may also reduce incentives for long-term holdings. And then, of course, we are a country, we are a society, so there is competition on the international scale. High capital gains taxes may reduce the attractiveness of the United States as an investment destination. In a globalized economy, capital is mobile, and investors may prefer jurisdictions with more favorable tax treatment, potentially leading to a capital flight. So in general, the impact of capital gains taxes is multifactored, influencing investment behavior, economic growth, and tax revenue. While increasing these taxes may address concerns about wealth inequality, it also carries risk, such as reduced investment in the United States, market inefficiencies, and potential decreases in overall tax revenue due to behavioral changes by taxpayers. Policymakers have to balance these factors when considering changes to capital gains tax policy, including the unrealized gains that we're talking about today. In the end, I am not opposed to being taxed. tax. I just want to see it directly impacting people in a positive way. Just look at California spending hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars on trying to house homeless people. Guess what? Next to no progress has actually been made with these high taxes and high spending.
The complex and growing problem of
I already know about this. Look at the look at the amount of money that their politicians make. Not the governor, since that has to be a congressional increase, but their mayors and other elected politicians. Look how much more money they made whenever they tried enacting this.
homelessness has now become a political football.
Advocates say it is a daunting situation with no easy fix.
Tax dollars are often used ineffectively and inefficiently. I'm always nervous to raise new types of taxes when the impact of the overall economy could be uncertain and the funds, at least based on current results of spending, will not be used as effectively as we see in the private marketplace. And really, all that matters in the end is actually benefiting people, not what just feels good, not what just sounds good. All I care about is real world benefits and people actually seeing positive results. There is a lot to consider here, and that's all I wanted to talk about today. I want to give you free money right now. I partnered with different resources that will...
Before he says all this, yeah, that's pretty much what I think. Increasing everything always has an equal or opposite reaction. Newton's third law of motion. It applies here too. You think it's all good in general, but it's always going to have a negative effect on the long run. Now, if you're interested in free money, let's continue listening to what he says.
Will literally give you hundreds of dollars the moment you sign up with them. Check out my investing app of choice, Moomoo, where they give you up to 15 free stocks and 8.1% interest on your uninvested cash when you sign up with my link. Do you want a more traditional savings account? Check out where I keep my emergency fund, SoFi, where they'll give you 4.6% on your money and up to $250 for signing up with my link. Would you rather have automated investing? Sign up for Acorns with my link and you'll get $20 right now instead of the usual $5 you'd get from your friend's referral. You can also sign up for our investing program and get $100 in cash deposited into your Moomoo account. This is the best way to learn what your investing profile looks like and what investing strategies to use based on that. All of this free money is linked in the resources section of the description below, so don't pass up the free money because I'll punch you.
Alright. So, wait. Stop.
Be able to go and work.
I'm not political channel. So yeah, if you don't want to get punched, don't pass up that free money. Thumbs up if you liked the video. Thumbs down if you didn't. Subscribe to see more. And I'll see you guys next time. As you might guess, these buzzed videos may not come out as often. So keep track of it. Peace.